Welcome to the Great Lakes Fishing Podcast presented by Fishhawk Electronics. If you're looking for news, tips, and stories about fishing the Great Lakes, you've come to the right place. And now your host, Chris Larson.
Today our guest is Captain Casey Prisco from Dirty Goose Sportfishing. Casey, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Casey, we had you back on episode 9. We were talking Garmin Panoptics for Great Lakes fishing. Today, I just wanted to talk a little fishing with you. We're in the off season when it comes to trout and salmon fishing, but tell me a little bit how your season in 2020, how did it go?
It was good. I mean, up and downs. We had some weather that made the fishing tough at times, but overall, we went out and we had a lot of successful trips, a lot of personal bests, and we kept our people on the fish, bending the rods, and we had good experiences for a lot of new clients, and it was great. It was my busiest year ever, so I'm beyond happy, and I have a lot of rebookings and a lot of people that were happy and good experiences, and that's what it's about, is introducing people to the great sport of fishing and hopefully hooking them like we're hooked, and it worked out great.
Yeah, busy year, but it was looking kind of shaky early on. I know COVID-19 kept a lot of you guys off the water early on, especially in New York. Tell me about how COVID-19 kind of affected your season when it comes to the charter business.
It was tough in the beginning. My boat was probably one of the first boats in, and once they closed down the marinas and the launches, we really couldn't do much besides fish for fun. So me and a bunch of local captains, good friends of mine that I hang out with all the time, we'd go out and we did a bunch of little giveaways, from our sponsors, and you try to keep it interesting. I mean, the fishing was so good, it kind of was disappointing. When it opened back up from COVID, we were allowed to take our clients out. Not that the fishing got horrible, but the fishing that we had the water had changed and weather went bad. And at the end of the day, it wasn't as good as it was during the COVID time. And it was kind of disappointing because you really want the best fishing for your clients you can give them. And it was just tough. But there was a lot of days we had great days, and some days it was tough. But overall, we bent the rods. People were happy, and that's all that matters. It's putting smiles on faces and bending the rods, and we had a good year doing that.
Hey, you operate out of Pulaski, New York, right on the Salmon River there. Tell me about fishing out of that port.
So out of that port, you pretty much have a little bit of everything going on. This year we had some steelhead show up, which was a bonus, but most of the year you're fishing brown trout, some salmon, depending on the winds and the conditions. You can get some salmon come early June and July. We did have some early April, believe it or not. Lake trout are always, in the area if you're willing to make the travel. A lot of that's up towards Henderson. It's about an 18 to 20 mile run, but it was a good year. I mean, overall, I would give it an 8 out of a 10.
What are the seasonalities like out of your area? You kind of mentioned a little bit there. When do you guys kind of target the different species throughout the year?
Soon as the Little Salmon River opens up, I put my boat in, and we'll be targeting brown trout and lake trout. That's most times first couple weeks, early weeks of March. March, April are brown trout and lake trout. Occasionally you'll find salmon around depending on the conditions. Come May, this year I actually purchased a second boat, so I'll have one boat on the east end and one boat on the west end out towards Wilson, New York, Niagara. So I'll have one boat brown trout fishing and lake trout fishing in the east end, and I'll have another boat in Wilson, king fishing, lake trout fishing in May. And then come June, July, it's all conditions. If you get the right winds, you'll have salmon around. If you don't, you'll be fishing brown trout and lake trout. And there's always bonus steelhead around. You'll be fishing salmon and, catch a steelhead or an Atlantic salmon. The Mexico Bay, that area, Pulaski, Salmon River, the sky's the limit. You can catch anything depending on the winds. One day you'll have nothing. The next day, the mother lone of fish will be there. It's really it's challenging at times, but it makes it interesting and keeps it fun for you.
Yeah, the Salmon River is kind of one of those fisheries that people talk about. What do the returns look like in the fall? What is it like being out there in the water in the fall?
In the fall, depending on the time of the year, a weekend, you can see anywhere from 100 to 150 boats right in front of the Salmon River first thing in the morning. The fish, they'll pile up right in front of the river in 6 to 15 feet of water. And the boats know it. You'll drive around, they'll be jumping alongside of you. You'll see 8, 10, 12 boats hooked up at the same time. It's fun. At the same time, it's definitely stressful for the captain and the crew because you're trying to avoid all the other boats. You're in tight quarters. Everyone's working a small pocket of water. And as the sun comes up, you slide out to deeper water as the fish do, and, you pick at them out there. But every year it's exciting. I look forward to that time of the year. It's just a unique fishing experience for everyone on the boat, including the captain. You never know. You can go out and they can bite one after another. You can go out and it can be brutal, frustrating. You'll see them jumping. They'll be everywhere, and they don't bite. But that's fishing. If it was catching, you'd go out every day and catch them. But it's fishing. So you try your hardest, put your best lures in the water, and hope for the best.
Tell me a little bit about that, Casey. What are your best lures? What's kind of your favorite when you're going after salmon?
This year, Michigan Stinger spoons and Okie paddles, 13-inch fish, white Casper, green Casper, bullfrog, spoons, UV NBK. Seasick Waddler was good. Later in the year, we used some J+ when we're fishing in front of the river. It all changes by, time of day and time of the year. Atomic flies. There's a time where the fish they stop actually eating and they're going to more hitting out of instinct and aggravation. Atomic flies, the 41 fly, green glow. It's challenging, but if you're on the water enough, you stay with the up-to-date information and you work the network of friends and friends make the lake smaller. I think I said that before, and it's the truth. The best thing I can say is, keep your network small, but keep it honest. If you work with guys that are always going to be honest, like I have a friend, Captain Andy Bliss, I think he's worked, he's done the podcast. A friend, Captain Mark Ledden, Driftwater Fishing. These guys are guys I talk to all the time. They fish with me all the time. It's honest. There's no lying. It cuts down the fishing curve to you're on the fish, and it's just a matter if they're willing to participate in biting or not. So working with the right network of people is huge. No matter if you're an amateur, a weekend warrior, you know what? Follow your local bait shops, Fat Nancy's Tackle. They're going to give you an honest report. We want you to catch fish. You can follow my page. You can follow Andy's page and Chase and Tail, or Mark's page, Driftwater Fishing, Cold Steel Sports Fishing. These guys are going to give you an honest report. They're going to tell you where they're at, what they're doing, and what they're using. That's huge. At the end of the day, putting the right stuff in the water is crucial. If you don't have the right tackle and right baits in the water, you're wasting your time. And, most of these guys don't get out as much as we do. We're out every day. These guys have a limited amount of time that they're out fishing. And at the end of the day, they want to make the most of it. So we give them an honest report. Here's what we're getting them on. Here's where we're getting them. Go catch fish. I took a lot of criticism for telling people about exactly what I was using. Why would you tell somebody? It doesn't matter. I want to see people catch fish. It's an amazing fishery. Everyone should enjoy it. So if I can help somebody, I want to help them.
Yeah, I saw that video you did in September. I thought it was really cool where you really kind of went through everything that you were catching fish on. You're talking about the different combinations. I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. I want to see people catch fish, whether it's on my boat with me or if it's on their own. I remember my first time coming up to Lake Ontario and, with my own boat, and it's intimidating. You're a little boat in a big body of water. And at the end of the day, if you can have any little insight, any little pointer, any little tip to help you, take it. And I feel like I feel obligated to help people. So if I can help them, I help them. Follow my page. I will tell you what I'm using. If you want, message me. I'll tell you what I'm using. I don't care. I'm here to help you. I'm here to I want to see people catch fish.
What do you do, Casey, on a day? You said you kind of had an up and down season catching fish. When things aren't going your way and you're not getting the hits that you want, how do you kind of shift your game plan? What do you do when it's not the super bang up day that we all love and we all dream of?
You're networked with a certain group, like I've said, certain group of guys. So you try to find out what's going on with your buddies, your friend boats that you can trust. Some guys are going to be out there, and I'm going to be honest with you, they don't want to see you do good, and shame on them. We're all in the same business. We're all out here to help people catch fish, whether it's on your boat or somebody else's boat. If I can help somebody, I'm going to give you an honest report and tell you what I'm using. So you take that information, and some days it's going to be a grind. You're going out there, and trust me, I want to catch fish for my people more than they want to catch fish on the boat. Sometimes it's not in the cards, and you try. So when the day goes tough, you never stop trying. I don't know how many people I can tell you have been on my boat and said, "Oh, listen, we've been on another boat and it was tough fishing," and they just sat there and they're just not biting today. You give 110% until the very end. Don't ever give up. And at the end of the day, I think people see that. That's all you can do. It's a fish. You can't make them bite. When they want to bite, they'll bite. And if they don't want to bite, yeah, it's frustrating. It's a tough day. It's tougher for us as a captain or a mate probably than it is a client, even though they don't realize it because, they're footing the bill. But at the end of the day, I want you to come out and enjoy yourself on the lake. I want you to see what I love and why I chose to do this as a career. And if I can't do that, it's disappointing to me. So without a doubt, I definitely, I stay networked with the right guys, and you got to give it 110%. Keep the best tackle, the best gear, keep your hook sharp, keep your leaders changed, keep everything 100% ready to go, because every bite can count and will count. There's some days you may get 5 or 6 bites and you need every single one of them to stick. And if you have dull hooks or bad spot in your leader and it busts off, shame on you. So you try your best, and that's all you can do.
What is your typical program going to look like if you're heading out on let's say on a July day? What's your rig? What's your setup going to look like?
July down here, you have a couple options depending on the weather. Like I said, and the bait and the salmon being around. First thing if there's salmon around, we're going to go out and find a thermocline, 55-degree water, look for bait and fish 55 degrees and deeper. Run a lot of meat. I like Pacific herring. That's what I use the most of. Okie paddles, Reese Davis meatheads, diabolical meatheads. We're going to fish deeper water, coppers, atomic copper. We'll run an 8-rod to 10-rod spread, sometimes double divers, depending on the conditions, and cover water until we find what we're looking for, an active fish. If the salmon are around, we're going to go look for brown trout. Mexico Bay is known for big brown trout. The state record brown trout has come out of that bay and been broken out of that bay numerous times. If we're brown trout fishing, we're going to look for where 60 degrees meets the bottom. We're going to look for bait in there, and we're going to adjust our program going anywhere from 60 degrees to 63 degrees, 64 degrees, and looking to find the fish. Once you find them, you got to listen to the fish. Browns will tell you what they want. It may be a green glow ally UV stinger. It may be a black widow. It could be a chicken wing. It could be a mongoose when the sun comes up. It's a deadly spoon. It could be a doctor spoon. Once they tell you what they want, load up on them. I mean, there's times I've had 8 rods or 10 rods on the water for browns. Every single rod has had the same spoon. Mexico Bay is amazing. It truly is. The structure in that bay and the browns that you can catch are unbelievable. This year, we fished 1 week dedicated just for browns, and we had 18 browns over 13 pounds in that bay. It's unbelievable, And then, like I said, if the brown trout fishing isn't good, or salmon isn't good, or they're off the bite, there's lake trout. When we fish lake trout, we run north, up past the North Dunes. We go up to the trench up near Henderson, and it's a run. You're going to run some fuel if you have a bigger boat. And we'll fish 120 to 160 feet of water, and you'll fish hammerhead cowbells with spinning glows or atomic flies behind an attractor, and right near the bottom, and you go up there and you catch trophy lake trout. I mean, we had 15 lake trout this year over 20 pounds, and many in the 16 to 18 pound range. It was just an unbelievable year for big lake trout, and we weren't the only boat. There was a lot of boats that had some giant lake trout. There was a couple caught 25, 26, 27 pounds. If you put your time in, you can figure it out and definitely catch some trophy fish, and that's what it's about.
Casey, what kind of speeds do you like to run?
Lake trout fishing, I guess, is probably what I'll start with. It's the slowest. Lake trout fishing, I'll run 1.6 to 1.8 GPS, but I'll also watch. You have currents. I won't run a probe because I run 3 riggers right near the bottom, 2 to 5 feet off the bottom. Sometimes I'll run 10 feet off the bottom, depending on where I'm marking fish. Brown trout on my fish hawk, I like to run 2.0 to 2.1. And king, sometimes 2.0 to 2.1 as fast as 3.0. The biggest thing is when you're out there is you need a fish hawk. If you're not running a probe, and I'm going to tell you, fish hawk has the best probe on the market. If you're not running a fish hawk and getting your speed, you're wasting your time. Can you catch fish without it? Absolutely. Are you going to be consistent? No. So with salmon, everything changes, but watch. If you're turning and the inside rod goes, slow down. If you're turning and the outside rod goes, speed up. Once you find a speed that those fish want it, you're going to have a better catch rate. And, staying in the temperature. There's a lot of times if you're going 2.5 miles an hour, you're in 56 degree or 55 degree water with your probe. If you speed up by chance to 2.7, you're in 66, 68 degree water. You wouldn't know that without a probe. I run straight Power Pro on my downrigger, so it's truer. There's no hum from the cable. I run Canon Optimums. They have positive ion control, but with the Power Pro, there's no electrodes getting in the water. And my probe, if I'm down 120 feet, it reads 120 feet on the actual depth. And that's huge. There's no guessing game. With the fish hawk, when you're fishing, you know where your probe is. And if your other riggers have the same setup, which I use 150-pound Shimano Power Pro on all 3 riggers. So if my middle rigger says 120, my other one says 130, and my corner rigger on the other side says 140, they're 10 feet apart, and they're all exactly where they're supposed to be. And that's huge. So when you're marking fish at a certain depth, you want to know your downriggers are fishing that depth. A lot of guys I know go out and, oh, yeah, they have blowback. Well, they don't know how much. They're guessing. Get a fish hawk. It's the best money you can buy for your boat. If you want to know exactly what's going on down there, buy yourself a fish hawk. End of story. That will put more fish in your cooler.
Well, we love the recommendation, Casey. That it helps us pay the bills, so we dig that. Is there something that I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about today?
The biggest thing I can ask is, if you know a family that has a kid, get them out fishing. My dad, I was fortunate enough, my dad always took me fishing. And I think the biggest thing I see is less and less kids getting into the great sport of fishing. And it doesn't have to be your own kid, or it could be a neighbor's kid, but take the time, and if you can, get them into fishing. It's amazing, amazing pastime. It doesn't matter how big a fish is. I still get excited. Some of my best days, and one of my funnest trips was 2 years ago. I went camping, and we caught bluegills, rock bass, perch with a bobber and a worm. Old school fishing. It was just fun. It doesn't matter how big the fish is. The tug's the drug. So I think the biggest thing I'd say is try to get your youth into fishing. Don't discourage it. Promote it. I'd even be willing to take, you know what, you just triggered me to do it. I'm going to give away a fishing charter for a group of kids. I was fortunate enough to have my dad, and my mom too. I always fished, and my dad would take my buddies fishing, and there's nothing better than seeing a kid catch a big fish, or any fish, or his first fish. So look on my page, Dirty Goose Sportfishing. In the next couple weeks, I'll be doing a promo to give away a fishing charter, 6-hour trip for a kid.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. And if people want to find out more about you and find out not just about this promo, but if they want to book a trip with you, or just ping you and find out what's going on with you, where is the best place for them to find you?
Facebook's probably the easiest. I do a lot of social media. It's Dirty Goose Sportfishing on Facebook. My cell phone's 845-234-5024. If you have questions, I'll answer my phone any hour of the night to try to help somebody. I got, from your last podcast, I probably received no less than 20 or 30 emails and probably 40 phone calls asking about Panoptics. And I believe I've reached out to every single one of them and talked to them to help them, get their boats set up to be able to catch more fish. If I can help somebody catch more fish, I will without a doubt 100% help you. If you have questions on how to get a fish hawk installed, the right angle for the transducer, or what I'm doing, you feel free to email me. It's caseyprisco@gmail.com, or you can message me on Facebook, Dirty Goose Sportfishing, or you can call me 845-234-5024. I just love seeing people get in the sport of fishing, and if I can help, I want to help. So whatever I can do.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Casey, for joining the show. Really appreciate your time and sharing your insights with us, and it's always good to talk to you.
You too, Chris. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the Great Lakes Fishing Podcast presented by Fishhawk Electronics. For more information on fishing the Great Lakes, visit our blog at fishhawkelectronics.com.